Before we come out here to the okra field, there's a few sanitation steps to make sure that we're starting with the cleanest equipment. That includes washing and sanitizing the clippers, washing and sanitizing the bucket, and doing a nice proper hand washing. So after that, coming out to the field here for the okra. For most people, okra is somewhat of an irritant, so I always recommend gloves, long sleeves, but that's more for personal, to not be annoyed by the time you're finished picking okra, because it's sort of a irritant on the skin for most people. But for picking okra, it's just snipping. Well, that's a good example. So I've dropped a pod. I'm not going to pick it up. That's, good. That's drop produce. So even though it's still good produce, I don't know what's been on the ground. So I'm going to leave it be and move on. But for picking okra, looking for nice, solid sized pods, clipping them off the plant with the clippers, just moving down the row. Getting solid stuff, putting it in the bucket. And I have my bucket attached to my hip, so I'm not carrying that while I work, leaving my hands free to constantly be grabbing the pods and moving along. Once you have sanitized equipment and your hands are sanitized, there's the only other thing to be mindful of is that dropped produce, which hopefully you're just grabbing 3 or 4 pods at a time and getting them in the bucket, so as to not drop too many pods on the ground. But sometimes you just let go of them and you move on. If you cut yourself, stop what you're doing, move away from the okra plants, go address that cut, get a band-aid on it, get a glove on that hand so that band-aid doesn't come off in the field. Any produce that might have come in contact with your hand after you cut yourself is thrown away, just to make sure that no blood or other bodily, skin or whatever comes in contact with food that we're gonna eventually sell to customers. You're done picking, don't just leave the produce sitting out in the sun. We're sitting here in the afternoon, so there's some heat going on, which will degrade the quality of the product. So as soon as you're ready to get it out, as soon as you're done picking, get it out of the field. When we're doing scallions, the first big thing, once again, is clean equipment and clean hands. So we purchased red bins, which are symbolized as drag bins, ground contact bins. So produce is not going directly in these red bins, but the red bins are touching the ground, and then our harvest bins go on top or go inside. And so the scallions will end up inside the bin before making it their way back to the wash pack. So clean knife, clean bins, clean hands, and then we're ready to get going out here in the field. So these are scallions, also known as green onions to many people. We harvest them a little bit different than most people. Most people, what they'll do is pull the greens, the whole plant out of the ground, clean up yellowing parts of the plant to sort of clean it up for the customer, so that they're a little closer to being ready to use. So I'm pulling off yellow tips, cleaning off dried outside layers. just to get it to a more appealing product for the end user. Once we have enough for a bundle, I'll grab a rubber band, which I keep off of my walkie-talkie, which keeps it out of my pocket, keeps it easily accessible. So put my rubber bands on my walkie-talkie, easily accessible, quick to grab. It keeps it out of my pockets, which could be dirty, and it keeps it on something that we can clean regularly. So to make sure that that rubber band is as clean as possible as we wrap produce in it. So this is the more traditional way of doing it, with roots on, rubber band around it a couple times to keep it nice and tight. We do it a little differently. So what we do is we come in here, cut right along ground level, and once again clean off any yellowing stuff, any dried layers, things like that, so it's a more usable product. As for, you know, does it end up wilting or going bad quicker than the ones with the roots on it? The customer may see maybe a 2 or 3 day shortened lifespan, but really if it's taken care of, put in the crisper, not allowed to lose that moisture, it'll hold up pretty well against a bunch of scallions with roots on it.
All the produce that we get from the field comes in onto these pallets, and then I take care of it. So we have our bucket full of okra. It's already sorted in the field, and we put it in a clean, sanitized flip-top crate. I just pour it in there. That will go and get washed outside. This flips around. We want them in a closed and sealed container that keeps the moisture in, so the okra stays fresher longer. And then I bring this over here. So now we weigh the okra, and the container weighs 6.5 pounds, so we subtract that from the weight around here. So that gives us 14 pounds of okra. And then we label this. So I'm gonna take my tape, and since we only have one type of okra, that's all I'm gonna write, and today's date. And then we put it in our 40-degree cooler. So anything that gets washed in our wash pack house gets washed in these sinks, and we always sanitize them before every vegetable. So we use our magic wand and spray a sanitizing solution over the whole surface. And then we let that sit for 2 minutes. So I'm just gonna spray off the sanitizer solution now. And because we're gonna wash scallions, we don't need to fill up the sink. We're just gonna spray them off. So we can go grab them over here. So these are the scallions that came in. And I'm gonna get a container to put them in, so then they'll go in the cooler. So we have 2 types of scallions here. We have the ones we normally harvest here at Sola Gratia. It's a cut and come again, so there's no roots on here. And we just spray off the ends so there's no dirt. And then we give them a little shower so that they hold in the moisture more. Give it a little shake, and then put it in the bin. And I'll do that with 2 more. You want to keep count so you know how many we have. 2. And then these are your more traditional scallions. They have the roots on the end. So you do the same thing. And if you really want to, you can cut these roots off. Make them a little neater. Give them a haircut. So that's a little sweeter. We'll put that in there too. Close it up. Label this. These are white scallions and not red scallions, so we can write that on there. The date. There's 4 bunches in there. Go. And then we'll weigh this one too. All right, very light, only 1.5 pounds. Whoop. And this also goes in a 40-degree cooler.